Greetings, nerds. This is the Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, Sarah. How are you doing this Monday evening?
I'm doing fine. Summer's coming to an end up here.
Yeah.
August, I've never really counted as summer, but I guess it is still summer, technically.
Are y'all already down to 40 degrees?
No. Yeah.
Just 50? Okay. Okay, so I was off by 10. I will take that right now, though, given how hot it's been here in North Carolina the last few weeks. But it's July, it's the dog days, but this is how it rolls. But I'm just looking forward to talking with you about some shows this evening.
Some shows, some penultimate episodes, and so much more. But of course, because on a slow news week, you can guarantee that Will want to talk some sports.
Exactly.
So, apparently, he wants me to state that The Rock is now a co-owner or owner of the XFL football league.
He is. The XFL rises from the dead once again, with The Rock being a part owner of the new league, bought it from Jim McMahon and saved it from bankruptcy. And so, football fans, if you like the XFL, we'll probably have it again in 2021, assuming that sports can continue. So far, the NBA's been able to have basketball without a positive COVID test, baseball. Yeah.
So, and we're still on track to get the NFL season started.
So far, I did see where I think the Philadelphia Eagles coach had a positive test, but I think overall those training camps have started. And I know this is not a sports podcast, but I know a lot of folks like football, so so far so good. So we'll see.
We'll see. Definitely, if you watch the Last Dance documentary on Netflix, which both Will and I encourage you to do so, I couldn't help but to think about, they need to do one of these on the Patriots, whenever
totally.
that.
Yeah, they totally do.
I think I actually dynasty.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere that Tom Brady actually maybe they did plan on doing one of those types of documentaries on them. I have to go back and double check, but I want to say I saw that shortly after the Last Dance ended a few months ago.
Yeah. Granted, I think I don't know character-wise if it'll be as cool, and if the coincidences and the timelines and how everything parallels each other. You can't force something like that. Just like what they did as a team, you can't force it. It just happens. And
right.
Okay, damn.
Yeah. But it was just the memes that came out of that and the gifs that came out of the Last Dance is just the crying Jordan has been replaced. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one in a while.
Yeah.
All right, and real entertainment news. Will wants to talk about thoughts on the Emmys. Here's my thought, Will.
Yeah.
I forgot they were announced.
Yeah. It kind of snuck up on me too, to be honest. I was, whenever the news was coming out that the nominations were starting to drop, I guess was it last Tuesday. I was like, oh yeah, they are.
I don't know what it is. Granted, I think ever since they nominated Millie Bobby Brown one year for Stranger Things, I've kind of written off the Emmys as being any kind of actual award show that gives out for merit and for really good, when really I just find that they tend to pick actors and actresses who they want to draw more viewers to. It's a higher celebrity. So if you nominate that Millie Bobby Brown, you're going to get a different audience than if you don't nominate her.
Yeah. Fair.
I mean, we're not dealing with the MTV.
No, we're not. But I guess some of the noteworthy things that did come out of it, though, obviously showed that we both really enjoyed Watchmen. Garnered a bunch of nominations. Also, Succession, which
Yep.
of course HBO and Netflix, I guess, has just really was nominated for I think more shows than HBO this year. So that was one of the things. And then, of course, the one thing that really for me to take away was because of course you saw some a lot of the similar shows being named, the similar actors being named, and of course there was the whole like Reese Witherspoon thing not getting nominated for like anything as far as an acting category. I know some of the shows that she was on were nominated, but one of the things that was noteworthy this year was there were 34% of the 102 nominations went to African American actors,
Yep.
which was which you can't say Emmy's so white. So, but that being said, there were not as hardly any Latin, Hispanic, Latino actors nominated, in which that was sort of the uh, things that really stood out as well, at least in acting categories.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it doesn't surprise me though,
yeah,
because if you look back at last year, a lot of the shows we talked about, there was at least one or two African American leads in those
mhm,
shows.
yeah, true,
So it doesn't, and it also doesn't surprise me that for you to say that there was really no Hispanic nominations, and that demographic is just not represented in especially leads of TV shows right
yeah,
now. I mean,
yeah.
hope they'll probably get there, but I think that yeah, I'm not surprised by those statistics at all.
Yeah, no, I wasn't either. I think there were a few shows like One Day at a Time, and there were a few Latin X led shows, but again, I think maybe it's the Black Lives Matter thing, as to your point about trying to draw on a certain demographic, because last year the number had dropped down to under 20% for African American actors. So
But what about quality? I
and
mean,
quality, yeah. Well,
I
there's that too.
shows the shows that got nominated, I was looking at some of them. Granted, I forgot all about the nominations.
Yeah,
It's been a week, guys.
yeah.
But
It has been, yeah,
I think that the quality is there to support a lot of them as being not just token nominations, but
that,
pretty valid.
that's true. That is true. Yeah, I didn't want to like say that they were token
Right.
nominations. I don't want to give that impression. Um, but you are correct. I mean, there were many roles that actors were in, and when you look at some of the nominations, they were in a lot of the shows that had garnered many nominations, like for example Watchmen or Mrs. Maisel with Sterling K. Brown. And so yeah, so I think you're right. I think it is the quality of the shows that were uh, nominated this year, and given that so many folks were cast, definitely led to the uptick in nominations.
Yeah, yeah. And Reese Witherspoon just plays the same part on every single TV show that she's on. So
Yeah,
they're not going to nominate her because she just plays the same part,
yep,
guys.
exactly. Yeah, I was like, anybody watch Little Fires Burning? Who was truly the star of that show? I mean, it's Kerry
I
Washington
was
all the
so
way.
glad to see
Yeah,
her nominated. I was like,
exactly.
yeah, nailed it. That's the
Yeah,
person who I would have nominated.
totally.
And I don't know if Jennifer Aniston got nominated for the morning show.
I can't recall. I can't recall. I have to go back and look. Yeah,
I go back and forth because there are certain scenes that Jennifer does in that show where it's like, damn. And it's a completely separate character from anything else she's done. So but at the end of the day, both of them are producers. So if that show gets any other award, they're pretty much a winner as well, and just getting
exactly.
it. So,
Yeah.
well, all right, that's it for the Emmy talk. Now let's dive into some Dad Patrol with our favorite bunch of misfits.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about our favorite bunch of misfits. And my love to hear what your overall impressions of the show. Because I know the last couple of weeks, I know you've liked the episodes, but you haven't like felt the uh, didn't give you that same feeling like
I'm just
but
waiting for you to finish the
yeah,
question.
yeah, or was it kind of meh for you?
No, I have the same complaints as I did last
Okay.
time. This season has been a slow and steady burn for me,
Mhm.
and they have yet to really shock me in terms of narrative structure.
Mm.
And they did that at least a good 3 times during the first season. So I miss that. And I miss feeling caught off guard by how this show is constructed. Um, this episode, I do appreciate the pairings a lot more.
Yeah.
And we're going to get into all of them because they do change it up and it works. It worked better because I think maybe another reason why for the last few weeks has been meh, a lot of the pairings have been very simple and
Hmm.
like, you're a robot, I'm a robot, let's be best buds. Granted, I want that TV show, I want that miniseries, but
Yeah.
still, I think Rita and Cyborg just just seen as what we felt when we first saw them as mini heroes and him training her, and now to get this episode where she's the beekeeper.
The
and
beekeeper. Yeah.
and he also falls flat on his face. Well, he was on his back, but still, in
Yeah.
terms of him and Ronnie, there's just something different and unique about that dynamic that I missed it over these last few weeks as Rita's been paired up with Larry and
Hmm.
Cyborg's been off with Cliff. So I think I've liked the pairings overall in this episode a lot better. I like where we ended. Next week, I hope they deliver something special. But I think that's what I'm missing. I'm missing that special that oh my god, I can't believe they went there and they did that. I mean, last year we were talking about a butt of farms or a
Yeah.
farm butt.
Yeah.
I don't know what you would call it.
Yeah.
And there hasn't been anything like that this season, really, except for this sex ghost.
Yeah, the sex ghost. I'm missing this. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm missing the sex ghost. It's become like that running gag that I'm looking for it popping up during some weird, in the most inopportune moment. And so, but yeah, I agree with you about the pairings this week. It definitely the pairings that they had with Rita and Cyborg, and so I have to ask. So which spinoff are you dying for more? Steel and Stone or Beekeeper and Pork?
Okay, Steel and Stone because Cliff.
Yeah.
Okay, I just Steel and Stone classic. Now, I still prefer Rita and Vic over Steel and Stone, but for a spin-off series, I think you got to give it to Steel and Stone.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I guess I was getting all the Avengers got vibes when I saw the Beekeeper and Borg. But I have to say I I I like that pairing with Cyborg and Rita too, because they just the two actors, Joven Wade and April Bobley, have good chemistry with each other as
Hmm.
far as when they play off their scenes. And because you have Cyborg, who is the Justice Leaguer, and he, even though when they were in Detroit and he was investigating the FBI was investigating the Quorum death, the agent had the little Justice League Junior Hero. Here comes the Junior Justice League, and
Hmm.
it gave him the ultimate clapback to the FBI agent, which was a nice little touch. But also that they whenever that the preceding scene that led to that them going to Detroit, and whenever Rita was had the Cloverton paper, and she was, reading the story, and then the story about the beekeeper pops up, and she was, really, getting engaged with the headlines and the story, and then they're having their back and forth, and she's just like, like F this in a very refined Rita way. Um, I just really like their scenes together, and it really, thinking back to the early part of the season with her wanting to learn more about how to be a superhero, and now uh, getting that chance because she has really addressed some of her inner demons, and looking to Cyborg to help her. Uh, uh, they they really do play well off each other.
Yeah, I like how she's also been on this acting kick.
Hmm.
And when you're an actor, an actress, yeah, the dream is to go big, go to Hollywood, names and paper, fame, fortune. She's had that.
Right.
And no, all this little details about her mother and the block and the not being able to embrace who she is now. It's fascinating how the goal is still the same. With being a superhero also comes fame,
Hmm.
also comes name and paper and recognition. So I like how they use that, and then they also allow Vic to move forward and his coming to terms with ethics on being a
Yeah.
superhero, and seeing the parallels between when Ronnie and him first met, and Ronnie talking about why are you this boy just did some made a mistake, why are you
Right.
suddenly handing him over to the cops, and now she's gone off and killed a man.
Yeah.
I understand her. I get it. However, and the moral compass, and I think what they're also doing is getting into this idea of it's cyborg, half human, half robot.
Mhm.
So at what point is he just is the superhero part of him really the technology that is in his body, in his bloodstream, or is it his humanity?
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think they're playing into that
Yeah.
to him through this storyline.
Yeah, that's a very good point because otherwise, yeah, because he is the traditional superhero, and the show did sort of fall into that at the end there, where he confronted Ronnie into the superhero mold, and I'm taking you in, and but also to your point, uh, with this relationship with Ronnie, it does cause us to explore his humanity,
Hmm.
and 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 really just dealing with that, and dealing with you know his first relationship after he's had the accident,
Right.
and all the conflicted emotions that Silas warned him about, and here we go. In this case, dad was right. I mean, when he was warning Vic earlier in the season about falling too fast, too and too hard for Ronnie, and not really getting to know her, and then we of course see the consequences of it whenever she took used the Uma jelly to cure uh, her injuries from having the equipment extracted from her, and then also to your point about the ethics. I mean, she called Vic out early in the season about basically make you know, basically ending a kid's life by basically, yeah, he did do a criminal act, but let's give him a second chance. And then now here she is, uh, committing the ultimate crime as far as murdering someone, and Vic again now having to bring her to justice, and him having to confront that, and to your point, as far as again that moral dilemma. Yes, he is exploring his humanity, but he also has a sense of justice, and in this case that is overriding whatever feelings that he has for Ronnie. And
Right.
so even though they went into the superhero realm just for a little bit in that, and it was a little predictable with the fight and that kind of thing. But I like the way that they did sort of bookend that story as far as setting it up for the finale, and whether or not they get to finish that, we'll see. Given that obviously they got cut short an episode due to COVID, but it definitely left things at a little bit of a cliffhanger as far as how they're going to uh, ex- deal with the next step in Cyborg and Ronnie's relationship.
Yeah, talking about overriding feelings. Let's talk about Niles and Dorothy.
Yeah.
Because surprisingly, I think I was most impressed with what the writers did with this dynamic, because they did start in not an absurd, but in like, what the heck? Why? Why would you have Dorothy get her period at the very beginning of the episode?
Yeah.
What are we talking about all of a sudden?
Yeah.
It's something you often don't see explored in hardly any kind of entertainment.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about it the other day after I'd watched it, like hours after, and it just entered my mind that, okay, now I get it. Okay, all season it's been Dorothy talking about how old she is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm bigger. I'm an adult. I'm 102 years old. The sex episode where she stays up past her bedtime, and everything, and also Candlemaker,
Mm-hmm.
and how he's the one constantly telling her she can't be friends with Baby Doll. Baby Doll is a child. She's not a child. And everything, and it's all tied back to this idea that Dorothy can't grow up, because the moment she does, she no longer has control over Candlemaker.
Mm.
And I was just thinking, like, that's genius, because I never connected those dots. I
Yeah.
never questioned, well, does she get her period?
See, so there are some things that like caught you off guard.
That's what I'm explaining. That,
Yeah.
yeah, this is one of the things that
Yeah.
really threw me, and it caught me off guard. It settled, and I followed the rest of the episode, but it took me hours later to really understand the genius by
Mhm.
with the setup and how meticulous they were in, and it's still a slow burn to get there, because you don't connect the dots until this episode where it's revealed that she has now, for a female,
Mhm.
become an adult, and it's a rite of passage, and her mother's tribe, who put this curse on her, tied it to that rite of passage, and and that's why, and it just all makes sense now. You're like, okay, I get it. And so you want to vindicate Niles
Yeah.
for having this control, not letting her grow up, not treating her like a child. But he also was protecting the world, because the moment she becomes an adult, we're all dead. We're all wax.
Yeah.
Which, shout out to special effects. The lollipops melting.
Yeah.
I love that
That
so much.
was.
Like, oh, it
Yeah.
was such a cool visual, and you didn't even have to see him. You just felt everything,
Yeah.
all reality melting away. It was such a good concept.
That was a beautiful concept. You're right. I that whole sequence there at the end. You're right. It was a well executed practical effect. It's just such a yeah. I mean, it just really said so much by the smart use of effects. And but I hadn't, now that you have shared your thoughts about Dorothy and the Now story, because that makes total sense. And I was thinking more along the lines of her mom being the warrior,
Hmm.
and those things, because during the flashbacks it seemed that uh, it was Candlemaker was chasing Dorothy, and and her mom kept showing up
Hmm.
in those sequences all throughout the amusement park. And I was thinking more along the lines of, rite of passage. Maybe it was going to be a rite of passage for her to become a warrior to end Candlemaker. But in any event, you're you're right. I mean, it is a rite of passage, and it is, um, you know whatever happens related to Dorothy. It is going to be, it's a pivotal event that's basically going to cause the end of the world if 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 she's allowed to change and grow. So
Well,
uh,
it's also, I think what we forget is it's a curse. I mean,
mhm,
we're so used to these failed experiments that what the writers are really getting into is, and we've seen this in fairy tales,
mhm,
that if you get a curse, there is a switch or an event that has to happen for suddenly it to be dismissed or for it to unfold. And that's why I think it has more to do with, and she says it in the episode. Dorothy says, I never let you out.
right, right,
So there's a clear why all of a sudden, and the only thing I can think of is she had her period, and which, I mean, that you're an adult, that
yeah,
you're not an adult, but because kids get them all different ages, but still it's the female becoming older,
hmm,
no longer the little girl. And I also like that line. Some guys just don't want their girls to grow up,
yeah, yeah,
which feeds into perfectly what Jane is doing in this episode.
hmm, definitely, definitely, and really getting, again, the whole theme of, fathers and dads, and what we've been, that overarching theme for this season,
Hmm.
the choices that parents make, and and how parents treat their children, because, obviously we get flashbacks to Kay's abusive childhood, and and how she was punished by her father. We learned, so we learned different types of punishment, abuse that he has engaged with, inflicted on Kay this season versus last. But but again, it's equally traumatic as far as how it shaped her, and putting her down in the well, and we get to understand the whole symbolism of the well, and
Hmm.
why it is, so pivotal to the underground.
Yeah, yeah, and we also see Miranda suffer in the well and
Mhm.
builds up the strength and the courage to not only climb out of it, but she ultimately runs away from that house.
Exactly, exactly, and in doing so, because the way the whole thing set up, as you were mentioning with Jane, they were really there's still this competition between the two of them as far as who's going to be the primary. And of course, when the episode starts out, Jane was still trying to figure out what happened to Scarlet Harlot and Lucy,
Hmm.
and Baby Doll, and some of the other members of the underground who uh, or start their stations were all being closed. And so we learn, it really sets it up really well as far as, uh, this this competition between the two of them, as far as who's going to be the primary, and really get into the underlying motivations for what truly is Miranda's motivation here, especially when we see what happens later in the episode when she garnered the strength and to write that letter, and to crawl out of the well, where it definitely sets up a situation where Miranda's definitely going to be primary, and quite frankly, she may even want to just completely remove the K persona as well, and become, you know, the the lead, the person,
Right.
because, yeah, because I mean, she would probably look at K as equally weak as all the rest of them.
Oh, absolutely. And I think you just called out what her ulterior motive is that it's not about protecting the girl because she didn't see a silver lining and she didn't see any benefit of protecting the girl when she got them out of there.
Hmm.
And I think what we also forget is isn't it Miranda who threw herself into the well
She did.
a while back?
Hmm.
So there's no we still haven't gotten the justification and the rationale to do that and what led to that. And this whole idea about rebirth, well, if anything has taught me in science fiction, rebirth means reprogramming.
Hmm.
And reprogramming means you're not the same thing that went into the well.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And maybe that's what. Yeah, and
Yeah.
maybe that was it. I mean, yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe it was going in there and see. Because obviously Harry Kay wants Harry back, and Jane's choice was to go retrieve Harry because Jane's role as the primary is she really does want the best for Kay, and was hopeful that this would bring some, give Kay some strength as far as and really establish herself as the primary because I mean that's I think that it really is a good contrast between the two characters of Kay of Jane and Miranda and what their underlying motivations are as vis-a-vis Kay. So.
Well, it's parenting. I mean,
Hmm.
do you give in? Do you give the kid what they want, or do you teach them a lesson and say, no, that's not the way the world works. Here's the way
Yeah.
the world works. And I think that came out ahead, but the more Miranda views it as, the more you coddle her, the more you give in to her every whim, the more personalities that are created.
Hmm.
We're not moving on. We're not growing stronger. We're
Right.
weak because
Yeah.
we're enabling the kid to remain a kid.
Hmm.
But at the same time, Jane, and I think that was why I liked the pairing of Jane and Larry, and I think that's maybe something both of these characters have been without this entire season is their conversation about becoming irrelevant.
Yeah.
And Jane is not only it's not just about protecting Kay at this point, it's about what if Kay doesn't need me?
Yeah. That's true.
What am I? Like, do I just exterminate myself? And Larry's the same way, where Larry, he has been going through all of this stuff with his family and the past and who he was then and who he is now and how do you move forward. And in a way, he did become irrelevant because his family, yeah, they grieved him, but they still had to move on and have
Yeah.
a life and expand the family and all of that. And he's just a footnote.
Yeah.
And so it's just, I wish that this season had more because I didn't really see the parallels between the two until this episode. And I think they could have done a lot more.
They could have. They could have. But I think, but I'm glad that they finally did. It was a good pairing off of these two individuals for this particular episode, and maybe yeah, it'll build on that depending on what happens with the after the finale, which I hope we don't end the finale with Jane still stuck in the well, but I have a bad feeling that's probably where we may
Hmm.
end up. Uh, and
Jane stuck in the well, just like Iris is stuck in the mirror.
exactly, exactly. Um, but but I think Larry is still, even though he's doesn't want to feel irrelevant, he's still stuck in the past and still trying to reconcile himself and Negative Man and really hasn't. One of the things Moscow talked to him about earlier in the season was making peace with the negative energy, and he just for whatever reason can't. And every episode, every other episode, we see this play out with Larry and the negative spirit and the cryptic things that the negative spirit shares with Larry, trying to get him to break out of that cycle of just self despair and despondentness all the time.
Yeah, just like Cliff is going to have to learn a hard lesson next week when he's not going to be able to make it to his daughter's wedding.
Exactly.
He's going to be too busy dealing with a candle. And
Mm-hmm.
and Cliff finally gets to be a dad, or what he in his mind believes a dad would do.
Yep.
And we all love Cliff because he has literally no filter. He doesn't. He is so blunt and direct, and we love him for it, even though he constantly says the wrong things or things he shouldn't say.
Yep.
And Clara, I like that they brought her back. They have their day together, and there is a good father-daughter moment about the fear of becoming a parent. And I think that's what the way they've used Cliff this season is he feels so much grief over having missed out on his daughter's life. Mm-hmm. Yet he's still able to have these moments, whether it be with Niles or Dorothy or Clara, about parenting and what it means and the mistakes parents make. I think even Larry and him have a moment about that.
They did.
In the sex episode that I'm going to just continue to reference all night.
Well, the sex patrol definitely had it was definitely how Therapy Patrol, I think, in the first season was a key moment that really set off the show and a lot of arcs that really, I think, definitely sold the two of us on it. I think Sex Patrol was that episode for this season.
That's what it's turning into, because I didn't realize at the time how much this would build into the rest of the season, but it's there.
Yeah.
But I really, that's it for me tonight on Doom Patrol.
Yeah.
All of my thoughts.
Yeah, I think I really don't have much more to add other than hopefully Cliff will be able to get his singed finger back so he can use it for whatever purposes that he hopes to have Nels do to him.
I was so confused by that moment, and I had forgotten about it. But thank you for reminding me about the sausage finger.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So moving on to Stargirl, 2 episodes, and something about Stargirl that I also had an epiphany about. This show, as much as it's in high school, it's CW. It's a superhero show on CW.
No. Don't call it a CW show. No.
But it is.
Well, yeah, by just contractual agreement.
Yeah. What it has done, and I think why fans are really liking it and on board, is that it has yet to fall into the villain of the week pattern. Mm-hmm. And it just dawned on me the other night that, now I get why this, even though I have my issues with the characters and some of the writing choices and the lessons that go unlearned, I still, there is still some quality there, because they have not fallen into that trap where none of these bad guys are dying or getting away. And it's funny because you're forming a team. You guys have all these neat tricks. Have you actually saved anyone yet?
Yeah, I mean,
newsflash, guys. You literally haven't saved anyone. I mean, the Beekeeper has saved more people than you guys have at this point. So just calm down.
That's a good point. I mean, we've had now Harry Jr. We've had the with the Wizard's son. So yeah, it's their track record hasn't been so great.
I mean, even on their mission, they always go out, they suit up and everything. They just are constantly getting their butts kicked, and I think there's a purpose to that. But it's just funny to me to think that we've gone the 12 episodes now. These heroes have not won a single battle. They've definitely done enough to live,
Yeah.
which is good.
Yeah.
But they've never really that success of saving someone or really winning the battle. And I also just think even if they do win, they don't have an island. They don't have a secret science lab facility to lock up these people. What
No.
happens to these villains?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. If the brainwave or or icicle don't off them, then yeah, they have nowhere for these individuals to go. But I mean, I really this show has I've really come to really appreciate this show, and it's quickly become one of my favorites, actually. And I know I sometimes give Courtney's decision making and stuff a hard time over the last 10 episodes, but you're right. It hasn't fallen into the trap of the villain of the week, but at the same. But one of the things I really enjoyed was just how they quickly built up a universe
Yeah.
this season, and really, it really have had multi-dimensional aspects to these characters, and not just be the cardboard cutouts that whenever you heard a superhero show based in high school, it could easily have fallen into that. But they really have some good depth, and they really deal with family dynamics and high school dynamics really well. And
Yeah, I mean, the only cardboard cutout is Cameron because he's never freaking around.
yeah, exactly.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So, the first episode that we're
Yeah.
supposed to talk about tonight, while Courtney is going through all of this revelations with her dad and who she really is, and loses all the confidence that she had
Hmm.
about being Stargirl, she goes to lunch at school. Okay, I haven't been to high school in a very long time, but Will,
Yeah,
if you liked a girl and you were gonna go take her to a dance, would you be having lunch with her?
definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where the heck is Cameron having lunch? I don't
he
understand.
must have he must have lunch at a different lunch period. That's the only thing I could figure.
It just it's so he I chuckle when they bring him up because
Yeah.
this
I mean,
kid
Cameron's
had like less time than
yeah.
even Mike has had.
Cameron, yeah, Cameron's only purpose was to get the icicle over to the Dugan's house for dinner, and that's basically it. I mean,
But Barbara did that. Cameron didn't even do that. Barbara did that
yeah,
because Barbara invited Jordan and his family over for dinner.
yeah,
So Cameron's worthless there. I
yeah, that's
mean,
true. Yeah, I
it's
forgot that.
just
I forgot that little point. That's a good. Yeah,
he's such a funny character, and
yeah,
you know, he'll probably have season 2 will be his season because his dad is gonna die and he's gonna want revenge and all of that.
yeah, yeah.
But it just cracked me up. And that's another thing. Icicle, Jordan, you were so cool. You were so suave. You were so the madman, the cold, the Iceman, if you will.
Yep.
Will.
Yeah.
Um, and now he's just a dorky person who Brainwave is a bigger villain than he is.
Oh God, Brainway's evil. Straight up evil.
Like
Yeah.
the and again, I don't know what it is with Jordan and, and Cameron. Must be something in their DNA. But a girl looks at you and suddenly you hesitate for the plan that you've been working on for how long? Like that
Yeah.
whole idea of when Brainwave reveals who Stargirl is
Yeah.
and the hesitation that just I was so on board with Icicle, and then that moment I'm like, I don't know. I don't know anymore.
Yeah.
Like I appreciate trying to add in humanity
Right.
because it's such a villainous character.
Yeah.
But you killed a kid, and you've known Barbara for 5 minutes, who, by the way, is happily married. Well,
Hmm.
happily strong word right now, but
Yeah.
is married, has her daughter, has a stepson, and what are you looking at? Like, what, you hesitate?
Yeah.
You haven't even been properly on a few dates with her. You haven't even kissed her. Like, what the heck?
Yeah. Yeah. He definitely, you know, we saw that earlier in the season where he definitely had a fast, an attraction and infatuation with her. And I guess Icicle, he has these dreams, but even his parents are like, dude, really? So, but I think, to your point, as far as introducing humanity, uh, I guess, I guess relationships or infatuations is in his and Cameron's Achilles heel. Uh, and, but also I think just more, in a more serious note, I think it was just a way to differentiate him from Brainwave, and that there are some things that it, he he is susceptible to allowing sentiment or whatever interfere with his plans.
Mhm.
So maybe I guess that's one of the things I think they're trying to show there, where Brainwave truly is fully committed to the point where he will kill his son, kill his wife, and 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 I think we whenever we had the Brainwave 1 and 2 episodes, and seeing the videotape origin stories of him, we really got a good. I think they really did a good job of setting up why he is so motivated to follow through with this plan, because he again he continues to talk about the ugliness of people and their faults, and and sees this as a way to remake America and the world in his image, as far as being able to control them. So I think he's definitely more I think that really gives that level of commitment that sort of differentiates him from Jordan.
Right.
uh
Right. Well, but then again, in those videotapes, we learn about his wife and how she was honestly bringing him back into the light,
mhm.
and then Jordan killed her.
Yeah, or had him, or
Or,
had Brainwave Killer. Yeah.
yeah, or there's still mixed message about who did the killing, and I think the same
Yeah.
thing, which makes me just want to see a flashback of Jordan and Henry,
Hmm.
and or Harry, whatever his name,
No, Henry.
Green Goblin,
Yeah,
Green
it's Henry.
Goblin. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how they met and why they're still on the same page, because I'm starting to wonder if who's really doing the brainwashing. We know Jordan's a king at manipulation, but
Hmm.
so is Brainwave,
Yeah. Yeah.
literally. So I get it. I have a feeling though that Icicle is gonna die, but I think he's also going to try to stop what he's already put in motion.
Mm.
Um, just something I've been trying to figure out.
Yeah.
Um, so and again, to go back to your point about building a world, I mean, they took time this season to talk more about the seven soldiers of victory,
Hmm.
the shiny knight returned, and
Yep.
janitor Justin, who I called it from the first time he looked at Courtney. That guy is creepy, but he's probably a knight of King Arthur or something.
Yeah.
And we learn more about that, which I appreciate, that they don't set anything up that doesn't go unanswered. Um and the three-dimensional characters. This cast at this point is about on par with The Flash.
Hmm. First season.
y- all seasons. and and I think that they still are able to utilize these characters, because even in this most recent episode, when they're at the cabin, which is not a cabin, that is a mansion
That
in the
is a mansion. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Whoever called it a cabin, screw you.
Yeah.
Freaking place was a mansion.
Yeah.
But they went around and there were these little moments, whether it be Yolanda, whether it be Rick, or Dr. Midnight, and reminding you about how this again, this isn't just Courtney's story.
Hmm.
There's a larger team here. We've got a marriage that is on the rocks because of the lies and the secrets, and we got Mike, who for the first time is figuring this all out, and there's a pretty good moment between Mike and Courtney after he realizes what really has been happening with the family, and how and the little bit of resentment because
Hmm.
she found the staff that he didn't, and it won't work for him, but then he realized, well, it didn't work for my dad, so
Yeah. I
that
love that
doesn't
moment.
prevent him from being a
Yeah.
superhero.
Yeah. I love that moment with them on the step on the porch with that, and it really, really cemented that how Pat has been throughout this season. He doesn't have superpowers. He's just a guy, but it, he shows ways of how you can be a hero without by he's kind of like MacGyver. He uses his brain, and he like he's built he built Stripesy and a Stripe, and and it's the consciousness of the show, and especially we really got that point. We know we've been building to that point throughout the season, and it really gets driven home when Sam Curtis finally does show up, and Courtney does learn the truth that
Mhm.
she is not Sylvester Pimbleton's daughter. But by the way, great bit of casting there with uh, with the actors who play Curtis
Yeah.
and who play Starman, because you know that I can see, especially with the photo, it really worked well. But the I know you in the notes you made the point of it, that they played a dad card too soon. Actually, I'm glad they did it, because I think it gave the 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 all the actions and Courtney loss of confidence and stuff. We needed that, because all season she's been like this. Oh, let's go do this. I got this. I'm the Stargirl. I could, and really hadn't had a true moment of crisis of confidence. And it, she so bring introducing Sam into the story at this point in the season, I thought was a good move, and it really also cemented Courtney and Pat's relationship on another level than just Stargirl and Pat.
Yeah. I think that I would almost argue, and it's hard for me to argue this because I always think with casting, you never know until you see it. But I really don't think this show would be as strong without Luke Wilson. Like, you could still
Hmm.
have the character Pat,
Hmm.
but his presence,
Yeah,
there is something about what he does with this character that I really, I don't think it would be as strong if you had another actor playing that role.
I agree.
And then, and I mean, it's very different because a lot of us are not used to Luke Wilson being on a CW show. Like, what? Owen Wilson's gonna pop up soon?
Yeah.
But I think there's just he's done a lot of great work to be the straight man, to be the man without the powers, but yet also the knowledge that allows everything to play out the way it does, and to be both the the father and the sidekick. I mean,
Yeah,
there's a lot that he's doing in this show.
he is.
I hope he doesn't die. I hope Barbara doesn't die. Um, but but I don't know where I'm going with this, but I really like that. To your point about the confidence with Courtney, um, and this makes sense as a segue in my mind, but the most recent episode,
Mhm.
I think about there's a 10 to 15-minute fight scene.
Hmm.
Parallels between Courtney and Barbara versus Tigress and Sportsmaster and Mike and Pat.
Yeah,
And the choreography is
it
some of
was
the best I've seen.
yeah,
It's
it
all
was pretty dope.
Catwoman.
Yeah, yeah,
Their use of space, their use of props, their use of making it focus and crisp, and you don't see the movements before they happen. It
mhm,
all looks really really well choreographed. I was watching it and I was like, yeah, this is
yeah,
pretty awesome.
yeah.
Pretty,
Especially pretty awesome. Yeah, because especially when you consider like Courtney's a gymnast, Tigress is also what has that as well, and also what was really nice about that scene too was Barbara just she gave that whenever she saw what Courtney was doing and that look of pride in her parent, but also amazement too of like, damn, my daughter just did that. And it just and really to your point as far as just how well choreographed it was, and then with Pat and Sportsmaster and uh, again, it wasn't as it was very raw as far as Pat, but also but the playfulness Sportsmaster had whenever he was just like because he could have taken Pat out right at the beginning, but it was a
yeah,
very
but he's a sadist.
yeah, exactly, and it worked against them because and again it builds to what we were talking about Mike and how Mike saved the day. I mean by hitting him getting in the back with the drill.
Hmm.
About how average folk can save the day. And so so those are the nice little through lines that I think that's why I said I've really the show has really become one of my favorites because it's all those little moments that they have in the show um, that that makes it feel whole, and I haven't felt that way in a about a superhero show uh, straight line superhero show in a very long time.
Speaking about little moments, did anybody else catch the fist bump between Mike and Rick?
I did. That was nice.
When have they become best buds? Where's the lost footage? I want to call out that. I also want to call out the biggest, like, really, that I had all season. So we really get the final version of the plan, the
Mhm.
big plan. Newsflash. All they did was build Cerebro.
True.
Like
Um,
when they go in there and as soon as you're like they open it up and I'm like, are you kidding me? Cerebro?
yeah.
Really?
Well, I will say this. I'm going to miss the DC Universe versus budgets next year when they're on CW full time.
See, and me, I'm just the movies. Those movies are trash, but their Cerebro was superior.
Yeah, it was. Hey, I see what you did there.
I really understand this one was built in a tunnel because it looks that way. It was
Yeah.
not buried underneath a mansion, that's for sure. But yeah, I just could not. I'm like, and then I know DC and Marvel, they often do have these parallel, whether it be characters,
Yeah.
whether it plot storylines. So of course, if one of them has a Cerebro, why wouldn't this one? And then I know what you're also thinking. But this one's evil. Is this an evil?
Oh, speaking of evil, I did another little thing that I thought was a good bit of storytelling with this episodes. Uh, whenever and because I was trying to figure out if like whenever Doctor Midnight hacked into the system was this something we with the plan for New America was it thing that Jordan had his IT guy, because I remember whenever he had them looking to see what Barbara was searching, and he saw that she was trying to find out about Starman.
Mhm.
Whenever they did hack into the system, I was like, did they like really try to just fake him out with the, well, New America's going to get rid of racism and class, and we're going to have green energy and all this kind of stuff. And I like the way they set that up as far as like, to give the team some doubt, like, wait a minute, we thought we were trying to stop these bad guys, but actually they're going to be doing good things until we found out they're going to kill 25 million and doing it. But that was a good way that they did. I think they did set up some indecision on the team, just to give us something as of an audience, and then of course gave a good way to, obviously bring back the gambler and show how he hacked the hack.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I saw the hack coming. I also like the questioning of, are they really bad guys? But it's read the fine print. Read the fine print.
Yep.
People are gonna die. It's interesting, and I'm sure it will become more clear as to why they did this. But the machine only affects fully developed brains, for one. And we did notice that suddenly the adults who were on the side of the Justice League Junior brigade are no longer on their side, as the machine has taken over. And it's a cool, cheap effect to have that little blast of energy in the eyes of both Pat and Barbara. I like that.
Yeah.
And setting us up perfectly for part 2 of the finale.
Yeah, it does. It does. We get it. We get a cliffhanger that won't be impacted by COVID. So that's all we will have. We'll actually have a complete season of Stargirl.
Thank God for that. All
Yeah.
right. Well, on that note, Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me at Will and Polk, WILLMPOLK.
And you can find me at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at SNN Nerd. Friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. But most importantly, rate, subscribe, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.